Good morning, everybody. We're broadcasting again this morning from the Powermetrix bunker. This is the second part of our series that we're doing, the coronavirus series, I guess you could call it. It's me again, John Jones. We've got, as you know, we've got promotions going on right now. We've got a 25% discount on all calibrations and repairs. So if you guys want to send in your kits right now, you'll get a 25%, like I said, on any repairs, any calibrations, and any upgrades. So if you wanted to add a voltage source or upsize your load boxes, all of that, there's a 25% discount on all of that, okay? So before we get started, you know how I am. I wanted to go ahead and start with a prayer. I'm going to pray today with a bit of a heavy heart. We lost one of our friends. Scott McCurley was, our reps are like family to us, and knew Scott very well. He passed away too young, and these are one of those things we have a difficult time with, trying to understand. So I'm going to go ahead and mention Scott in my prayers if y'all don't mind. So if you'd like to join me, I'm going to go ahead and pray right now. Precious Heavenly Father, in the midst of everything else that's going on, sometimes things hit us a little more personally and at home, and it sure did with Scott. He was far too young, Father, to leave us. He was such a great guy and part of the Tri-State family. And these are one of those times that you try and understand why things like this happen. And one day we'll all understand, but right now it's just tough. And Father, in the midst of hearing that, then we also have this whole pandemic thing, and everybody's saying it's coming up worse, next week. Well, all that's fine, but they need to understand one thing. God's in control of all this. So that's who I'm going to lift my prayers up to, and that's who I'm going to put my faith in. So, Father, I'm asking you right now to watch over us, keep us safe, and most importantly, thank you so much for your son, Lord. If he hadn't have done what he did, I couldn't even pray right now. So all these things I ask and say according to the will of the one who paid it all, my brother, Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay. So this is our new, you saw the transform rated bench. So this is the self-contained bench. Maybe you saw a little picture of it. This is actually it. You've got a 16S, 12S, 1S, 2S here. And we've also, if you notice, which is pretty cool, and we said it before, you don't have to just use our equipment to use this product, okay? You can see where we set this up right here so that you use a probe well test kit to train your meter techs on using a probe well device, or you could train them using a bird dog, whatever it is. But this is not specific to Powermetrix, okay? This can be used for anybody, okay? So let's go ahead and start in. We've got a 16S right over here, and you guys are seeing all the things I talked about before. I guess in case you didn't see the other one, I should probably say. The brains of the operations down here. We've got storage for extra units. Got a lot of safety features built into this. You can tell when this station is hot. You can see the light at the top. You can also tell individual cans what are hot because lights are going to come on for those. I've got an emergency stop here. So we built a lot of safety features into this. GFI receptacles. So if you look at the specifications that are available now, then you'll be able to see that. Okay. Jerry keeps telling me to look at the camera, so I'm going to look at the camera. All right. Okay. So, but I'm kind of slow. Y'all know that know me out there. So let's go ahead and take a look at we got the 16S over here. So we're going to go ahead and run a test on the 16S. Okay. So connecting we're going to go over connecting your PowerMaster to the service. We're going to verify site accuracy under field conditions. We're going to take a look at vectors. And we're going to take a look at the results of the test. We're going to do an overview of optional current probes because now remember these are self-contained meters. So you can use clamp-ons. They're going to be easier to get in those smaller cans with because now we don't have tests. We don't have the test switch, remember. So we have to pick up our current another way. So we've got all these other probes. We're going to show those to you today. We're going to do also some troubleshooting on a short order damaged voltage stator on the 16S. And then we're also going to show you that you can use other pieces of equipment to test the 16S with Powermetrix equipment and, like we've said, other pieces of equipment. Here's when you go through the test, you guys have seen it. It always shows you where to make your connections. So we do have the color wiring diagram pops up just like it does on all the tests. Off camera you can't see him, but Chris Mullins again is the administrator, and I'm the lowly trainee. But hopefully I'll pass today. So we're going to, I've got a 16, I've got a 16S right here. I've got my 3 series you can see set up. So let's go over the connections real quick on how you connect with a to 16S, okay? So I'm gonna make my voltage connections right here. You can see I'm gonna go up here and grab, I always go first with my neutral. We teach that out there in the field. Always grab your neutral first for safety, right? So I'm gonna grab my neutral right here. Now I'm gonna go across the bottom right here and grab my voltages. So I'm gonna go a red, A phase. I'm gonna go B phase. And I'm going to go C phase. Okay? So now I've picked up my voltages. Now these are our 353. These are our 353 probes. They're rated for 200 amps. Okay, so I'm going to use them here. Just like on all, we know that with any kind of probes that deal with current, they're directional. So I've got an arrow on these, just like we have the arrow on the flexes. So I need to get the arrow going in the correct direction. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and make my connections. And I know that I'm going to connect A phase here. Remember, arrow goes in the direction of the current or towards the load. Well, my current here is going up and into the top right here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my arrow, and I'm going to point my arrow in that direction. So I'm going to point my arrow up right here. Okay? I'm going to do the same thing with B and C phases. And hopefully knock the camera out of the way and get Jarrett mad at me. Let's see, so I'm going to go up here. Alright, so this is C phase. Sneak this in here. So I got C phase going up. And I've got B phase. So now I'm picking up all 3 of my currents. So you can see I'm picking up all 3 of my currents now with my 353s. I'm picking up my voltages here. And I've got my pickup right here to pick up my pulses. So we're ready to rock and roll and complete a customer load test, because remember, it's going to compare, it's going to go by the pulses here and saying, okay, for that 16S it's 21.6 watts. When I see that, I should get a pulse. So we're going to compare it with what we measured here and do a comparison, do a customer load test. Okay? So we're going to go with an integrated site test. You can see here, it's all the numbers look okay. I got 21.06 for my case of T. Always get that right, because if you don't, it will default to 1. If you don't put in the case of T and skip it, it will default to 1. You're going to get some funky registration numbers, okay? So at 21.6, all that looks okay. So we just hit next. And there's our drawing. Next. Let's start this. That should look a little better. Okay, so we've got A, B, C phases, right? Red, yellow, blue. Always for Powermetrix is red, yellow, blue, A, B, C. So we don't see anything crazy in the vectors, so we're going to hit continue. You know me, I always wait for 2 pulses. As much as it irritates Jared right now with dead time. Come on, second pulse. All right, let's start the test. So remember, it's just like when we do our customer load tests on any of our meters. We're going to say, okay, you've told me that that's a 16S with 21.6 case of T. That means every time we see, should put like 2 rails here or something, set them on my shoulders and I won't move. Okay, so we know that when it sees 21.6 watts, it's going to pulse, okay? But then we're also going to measure the number of watts and see how they compare to one another, okay? So you got 99.976. We can live with that. Registration. And you're just looking for one more. Now, I didn't put, remember from the last webinar, I put in 30 seconds or 3 revs. Notice this time I didn't put a time in there. Just to show you, it will go through 3 revs before we complete the test if you don't put a time in there. If you put both, it's whichever finishes first. So it went through 3 complete revs like it was supposed to. Yeah. And let's take a look right here at our watts right here. Let's take a look. Let me hit right here. Let's just note our total watts right here, like 64.7. We'll just kind of note that for something coming up here in a minute. Okay, so you got 100.029. That looks good. So we would hit done. And remember, anytime you hit done, a date and time stamp that test for you so that you can bring it up later. If there's any kind of complaint, you can pull out the report. It'll have the date and time stamp of when you were there. It also knows when you were there. Okay? So now we are going to go ahead and try and test a 4-wire Y, but maybe there might be a problem with it. So let's see. Let's try that one. Mullins is going to try and throw me a curveball. I'm sitting here. They're going to light me up. Hold on. Okay. Billy Dietrich will light me up. All right. Okay. So now let's run the test again. So we're going to run the exact same test that we ran before. So you can see it's the exact same test. I'm not going to play with the time or anything. I'm just going to hit next. Here's our diagram. Oops. So hopefully you guys are seeing what I'm seeing. You're not seeing any voltage or current on B phase, right? So that tells us we've got an issue. And if you look at my meter, you'll notice B phase is flashing. So I definitely do have some sort of an issue, right? Well, let's go ahead and we're going to continue. I don't know if you'll make this correlation or not, but you're going to notice when this happens. Do you remember when we had polarity reversal on the previous webinar? It was slower to get our pulses. There's less watts that meter's seeing, right? But if you, so in this case, we don't have B phase voltage or current, so we would expect again for the pulses to take longer, right? So it's already noticing we got a problem, but I'm going to hit ignore. And I'm going to keep going so that you guys can see how the test will result. All right, I'm going to cheat. I didn't wait for 2. So remember, like we said a second ago, it's going to take longer, right? It's going to take longer. Golly, that's terrible. I can't believe that camera. So would you guys expect it to test okay or bad on the meter registration tests? I don't have my B phase. Will it test or not test correctly? Curious to know what you guys are thinking out there right now. Test gets given the answer away now, right? You can still test that meter. Okay, you can still test the meter. It just, we said this before out in the field, garbage in, garbage out. That meter's just testing what it's seeing, okay? And yes, we've lost B phase on there, but just taking what it is seeing and it's measuring it to see how accurate what it is seeing is, okay? So right now we're at 99.922, and we know we've lost B phase. All right, so we got test complete. You can see 99.918. Okay? But, let's let's take a look. I can hit it before they're done. It'll show it. It should show it. I just hit the wrong button.
You get a power table now.
Alright. Okay. I guess I can really test it again. I want to show them the watts.
Hit the power table.
Connected directly right now. There we go. Let's see, watts right here. You see the same screen I'm seeing? Okay. So I got my watts here are 3582. Is that what you're seeing over there? Okay, just light it together. Okay. So we get 15. We'll get out of that. We don't want to get tested. Okay. Okay. So what we want to run now is a, oh, I'm sorry, I almost messed that up. If you were out in the field and you saw that, you could take your voltmeter and go from B to neutral, right? You could see that you didn't have any current, so voltage. So if you're out there and you're in the field and you saw this issue, probably what you want to do is grab your voltmeter and you want to go ahead and clarify, all right, and certify that you were missing that, okay? I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Okay, and this last test we want to do is going to be a delta. So it is going to be a 4-wire delta 16S. Okay? So I need to go to previous. You can select the site. And then we'll select site. Bless you. Bless you again. So now we're on a 4-wire delta. I had two different services set up for two different sites. So I had the one site set up as just 4-wire Y, and then I set up this other one as a 4-wire delta. Okay? So we're going to run our integrated site test. It's the same test we ran just a minute ago. We'll leave everything just the same. We've got our, saw the drawing. Everybody recognizes the old delta, right? Okay, there's our delta vectors. All right. Jared's making me go fast. Oh, you guys just don't know. After every one of these, he tells me how many seconds of dead air time I had. He keeps track. Okay. 100.229. 218. 2 100.210. So if it says 100.210 and it gives me a pass, what does that tell me? It tells me that I know that that machine has been set up for the range of pass or fail must be more than 0.2, right? Because normally if you set up pass or fail for 0.2, it'll go 100.2 to 99.8 is pass or fail, and anything outside of that would be a fail. So anything inside that's pass, anything outside is a fail. So I was at a customer, must have been at a customer, and we've adjusted it. It's a little bit higher than 0.2. Okay, because right now, if it was set at 0.2, that would give me a fail. Everybody agree? Barely, but it would give me a fail. Okay? So I would just hit done. Let's complete the test. Then we're going to take a look at the test real quick, doing the recall data. So we're going to get number 6. And I've got 2 sites set up here. So I've got 16S Delta and a 16S Demo. That was the Y. So we'll go to the Delta first. And you can see it shows the times and dates. I've said this before, so I can hit expand. Here's my test. I'll go down to it. Select it. Still okay on camera? All right. You can see the test that we just performed. And if you want to look at the test we did before that on the 16S with the 4-wire Y. Take a look at that as well. So those were the 353 probes that we used over here for current, okay? You could also use the 752s, okay? If you had larger conductors or group of conductors that you couldn't get around them, it's always about the windows, isn't it? Because we all know these are more accurate, okay, than our flexes are, but it's the size of the window that's always the limiting factor for us. So those there obviously have a much smaller window than this one does here. And we've also got different ratings on those. Those are 200 amps. This is 1,000 amps. And then we also have our flexes here that are 3,000 amps. And you can even use the flexes. But you can imagine it gets a little busy in there. And that's why folks that use the 3 Series and that to test self-contained meters, they're normally going to get those clamp balls. It just makes them so much easier to get up in those cans with, okay? Now, remember we said you could have other equipment under here, okay? Well, let's say you wanted, when in the training, you want to show them how to test a 16S with a 4 Series. You could always just remove this 16S, right? Pop it out, stick it here in the 4 Series, and then you just hit the buttons and it does that full load, light load, power factor test, okay? So this would do the phantom load test we've talked about before, the ANSI test, because it's got a load box, coming a 30 or a 50 amp model, so we can even do the class 320s, but it has enough juice in it, we can get up, like I said, up to class 320s, but this is going to provide the load so we can do a full load, light load, power factor test, okay? If you're out in the field using the 3 Series, you would do a customer load test, because there's nowhere for us to put to inject the current in there, right? Okay. Well, I think that's about it. We really appreciate you guys tuning in to us. We've been getting the numbers have been looking great. We really appreciate all the people that have been tuning in. If there's anything that you want to see, this is going to keep going. Hopefully, God willing, not a long time, but it is going to keep going for the foreseeable future until we know. So we're all kind of in that mode right now. We know that. So we're going to keep going. So if there's anything you want to see specifically, a certain test on a certain meter form, we've had a couple that we're going to show in some of the upcoming videos, just because it's been asked for. So if you want to see something, you ask for it, okay? So once again, we really appreciate everything. Thank you so much, all of our customers, and God bless, Scott. Thank y'all.